Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another video. Been a minute since I posted, but today we're going over the Marvel Spider-Man 2 mask problem. Now, this was something that was it was kind of talked about a little bit when the game first released, and I kind of just want to go over it, talking about some of the points, which it is kind of funny to even go over it, but it's just points in which Miles take his mask off and Peter takes his mask off, and it's just reasons where you're just there was just no reason to do that. You're like, why did you take your mask off? So you start off in the beginning of the game, where obviously we see the two heroes suit up. It's broad daytime. I wanted to add this because it's kind of funny that it's broad daytime. People could just look out the windows. Obviously, we see Peter and Miles run out of Brooklyn Visions. Anyone could just been like, oh, the two Spider-Men go to Brooklyn Visions. And also, it's kind of a bad look that if any one of Miles's classmates came upstairs, they would be like, "Oh, Miles's clothes are all off. Hey, my teacher's clothes are all off." It would look a little suspicious and a little odd. And I wonder what the thought behind that was, but all right. Obviously, we have when Miles takes off his mask because his uncle is like, "Do we really got to do the whole mask thing?" Um, Yeah, we kind of do. Miles literally has a secret identity for a reason. And if you straight up look in the background, there's windows. Straight up being able to see Miles. It's broad daytime. So someone could clearly just look, take a photo if they just looked out the window at the right time. It's just what was the reasoning behind this? Miles needs to keep his mask on. Keep your mask on, Miles. It's just dumb. And also for his uncle to tell him to take his mask off, even though he knows Miles has a secret identity for a reason to protect his loved ones and his family. It's what, like what was the reason? Why did you have Miles take his mask off? I know it was I'm pretty sure it was for the Prowler stashes, so he could put something in his mask, but there was just no reason to have Miles just have his mask off in broad daytime where everyone can just see it. All right, so obviously for this one, this happens after the whole Coney Island incident, where everything that happened with all the destruction stuff. Pete and Harry talk after Harry knows like his identity now, and Pete just takes his mask off on a rooftop where it does seem like people could maybe look out the window and see him. If you look in the background, it does seem like maybe someone could see him. I do kind of want to make a case for this because one reason is it's also dark out. So obviously, when it's nighttime, it's going to be a little more difficult to see someone's face. But if you also look at where they are on the rooftop, it's kind of bright, especially with the lighting, to be able to see both of their faces. Where in the one building in the background, it straight up just looks like someone could just look out the window and just take a picture of just Pete with his mask off. And I feel like there was just no reason for him to take his mask off, even though Harry knows now. He's because when Harry lifts up the thing and Pete says Harry looks at Pete and he's like, oh, he's like, Pete, he's like, what's up, man? He now knows, but I still don't think there was a reason. I feel like they should have had this conversation at the EMF where Pete could probably take his mask off and it would be okay, rather than just random rooftop where someone could just, grab a photo. Now, I also think this one is pretty bad because it's literally broad daylight. There are buildings around where anyone could just look out, look through the window, see that there are two Spider-Men, or what they would presume because Harry kind of acts like one, and just take a photo. In so far, both Pete and Miles just don't really care about their secret identities. It's just there was no reason right here for them to just take their mask off. I mean, obviously, if you look at the surroundings, the buildings look kind of far away, but with honestly with the technology that's in that universe and people just be able to look outside the window from time to time, you just take a photo and it's just there's no reason to just take your mask off. Keep it on. All right, so I also wanted to bring up this clip too because one thing that was actually kind of like you like listen to this, but so during Danica's podcast, she mentions how Spider-Man leaves the zoo with a new suit. Now, one thing that I wanted to like talk about was if she looked at like cameras or something, or she saw footage that Spider-Man left the zoo with the symbiote, did she also like know that like she saw Spider-Man without his mask on in that instance? I don't know. I just think it was a funny little thing that I wanted to add because honestly, Danica knew like the whole story of the game. Like she just straight up knew the whole story of the game, and she pretty much just told you stuff about the story and what was going on. Like if Spider-Man was acting like more aggressive, she would just straight up tell you, and she just knew everything that was going on. So I just wanted to add it because I thought it was funny. Like if Danica, I don't know, like saw like Spider-Man without his mask on like footage during the whole zoo incident. But yeah. All right. Now, I personally think this one is the absolute worst moment for Miles to have his mask off. Straight up, one, you don't even see him take his mask off. He just has his mask off for this whole interaction. And then also look at the background. The buildings are all very close. It is so easy for someone to just straight up, for this time, like in other instances, most of the buildings are kind of far away. You'd have to like really look out the window, grab your phone, like zoom in to like really like get a photo. But right here, Miles is directly in front of multiple windows that are all in close range and close up, and he just straight up doesn't have his mask on. At this point, and he's with Haley. Someone could immediately just take a photo of this, see this, and it just starts going viral everywhere. And that kind of ruins the whole point of having a secret identity and protecting your loved ones. Essentially, at this point in the game, Miles, Miles likes Haley. Now, this is another moment where Pete takes his mask off, and I do think you can kind of vouch for this moment because, one, it's dark out, and, obviously you're not going to have the best field of vision when it's nighttime. Two, if you do kind of look at the surroundings, you can kind of see there aren't really any buildings nearby to where you could probably accurately catch their faces, even if you zoomed in with a phone. Like, it kind of based on how the building is, where, they're elevated, it doesn't really look like anyone would actually get a good view of either Peter's and Miles' face in this instance. And I think this one you can kind of vouch for them actually taking their masks off. Like this is one of the moments where you could probably vouch for it. Like, yeah, could be an okay moment for them to take their masks off. They're having a heart to heart. If you look around the surroundings, it doesn't really seem like anyone would get a good look at their faces from a building, even if they try to zoom in with their phones. So that is one of the reasons why I wanted to add this, because I feel like you can make a point for it and it wouldn't be like the worst thing ever. So yeah. Now, at this point in the game, it's funny when Pete actually takes his mask off. So this is after the whole Scream boss fight, and Peter's neighborhood quite literally listens to the whole argument that they had. And at this point in the game, it doesn't really matter if even Pete doesn't have his mask on. Like the whole neighborhood, after that whole fight and the whole argument that they had, they know he's Spider-Man. Like at this point, they just know. Like it wouldn't be so difficult for someone in the neighborhood to listen to the whole argument that was going on here and to be able to kind of put, two and two together and be like, oh, they're like, my neighbor's actually Spider-Man. And I just think it's funny. Like, it doesn't even matter at this point. Like, and like there are moments in the game where, I've shown, a few where you can kind of be like, yeah, this might be an okay to have your mask off. But then towards the end of the game where they just keep taking their masks off and just not having their mask off, you're just like, look, at this point, everyone just knows you're Spider-Man. It doesn't even matter at this point. Like, you might as well just tell even J. Jonah Jameson, like, yeah, I'm man. Like, you might as well just tell him, like, you're Spider-Man. And he just writes an article about it. Like, it doesn't even matter at this point. And then we also have the clip where, obviously, they're on top of, this is during the whole symbiote invasion, and Peter and Miles take their masks off to talk. And this is a really bad moment to take their mask off because First off, while there's an invasion going on, it's instructed that everyone remains indoors and inside at all times and doesn't go out in the street because there's symbiotes quite literally everywhere. Even when you're swinging, there's symbiotes everywhere. And this is a good moment for someone to just look out the window to actually like look at what's going on during the whole symbiote invasion, because obviously, you know, if you're instructed to stay inside and you see a whole invasion going on, you're probably going to look outside to make sure like everything's okay. Oh, what do I know? Two Spider-Men have their mask off and you can just get a photo. It's like at some point they just make it harder to defend them. Like at some point they just make it harder to defend them and make a case for them. Like if you're a lawyer at this point, you're just going to be like, Your Honor, my client is Spider-Man. Like, what are you going to say? Like, he just has his mask off for just no reason in points where, you know, they could have just talked with their masks on. You know, they didn't have to take their masks off. They could have just talked. Or they could have just spoken in a more, at least secure location in which no one would see them with their masks off. Especially during the invasion where everyone is inside, you know? Now, this is also the last point in the game where a character is wearing their Spider-Man outfit and they don't have their mask off. This is the last point in the game. And this is the last time we ever see it in the game. And this is literally Miles just straight up. Alright, so you can kind of make a case here. I mean, right here, if you look, Miles is in front of two houses. Two houses can quite literally see Miles without his mask on. And if someone just looked out the window, they know. But at this point, in the neighborhood, people know that Peter's Spider-Man. Like, they know their neighbor's Spider-Man. And if anyone was walking by the sidewalk and just so happened to just, you know, turn their head and look over and they just see, you know, Spider-Man and he just has his mask off, you don't think someone's going to, like, be like, oh, hey, you're Spider-Man, can I get a photo? Like, he just has his mask off. Especially in New York where, I don't know, Spider-Man is either loved or hate, and he seems to be you know, loved a lot. I don't know. I just think that's a bad moment where someone could just walk by on the sidewalk and just see Miles without his mask on. But that's all the points that I kind of have to make. You know, let me guys know in the comments, like, what you thought about this video. Please, you know, comment your opinions, your ideas, you know, and if you want to have a debate and stuff, please, you know, I look forward to all those things, and I'm always, you know, read the comments, so I'm able to do that. So, and I don't delete stuff, so, you know, thanks everyone for watching. You know, I hope you guys, you know, at least enjoyed this, and I'll see y'all another time.